Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. When you have a problem with a neighbor and the circumstances do not favor you, what you need to do is wait. Don't get all riled up if you see that you can't win at that time. Why? Because another circumstance, another situation, another opportunity will be in the future when you're going to have the upper hand and then you're going to act. That's what happens in international relations when you have two countries and they have a problem and the circumstances are that one of the countries has a big backer, a person or an alliance behind the particular country that could beat you up at that point. So then you have to wait, and sometimes you have to wait centuries until the circumstances, the situation changes, and then you have the upper hand, and then you're gonna take what it was taken from you, or what you perceive as being done unjustly to you. That happens if you read history. You're gonna and look at patterns. You're gonna see this was always a pattern. That is, this country, let's say after a war, got fucked up, was waiting. After the other war, got on the other boat, got back what it was taken from it. But you have to wait. You have to wait. Sometimes you can't kill yourself, because if you kill yourself, there's nobody gonna be over there to demand and fight for. You lost. In this case, we have Syria, Turkey, Russia, United States, and the most important group, the Kurds. The Kurds who inhabit parts of Syria and Turkey. That's a big problem over there between Turkey and the Kurds. And the Turks would like to the Kurds whatsoever, and they don't hide it. The Kurds, on the other hand, they want to have their own state somehow created by the big bosses, like other states were created out of nothing. But the problem is the Kurds don't have the money and the influence. So that means 0-0. Unlike the other example I can use very close to them, geographically, money and influence. You want a country? Where? Go ahead. Boom. So we have here, well, I made it to sound like this, but it was more complicated a little bit. But in the end, if you strip it down, all the little flowers that cover the reality, this is how it was. Money, no people, bribes, here it is, your product. Cut the line and you're served. Here, the Kurds used to have and still have, to a certain extent, the Americans. But Americans are backing the Kurds in those areas only because they like being over there. They like to being over there. The Americans are on a territory controlled by the Kurds and other little groups that they control and they support, so they can fight against, let's say, the government in Syria. Therefore, they're over there to protect the democratic forces. Okay, that's how they're called. That's how the civil war started in Syria anyway. Backed by the United States, these democratic forces fought the regime, Assad regime or government. And then the whole thing broke into ISIS taking over and so on. So right now, the Kurds, not because the US loves the Kurds. That's you know what I mean. They are over there and love the Kurds as much as their interest dictates, the American interest. When the Americans have nothing to do with the Kurds, just like that. As many say, once America doesn't need you, just gonna let you to the dogs to be eaten. They don't care, just pull out and fuck off. Many examples are on this planet regarding that. Whenever they don't have an interest, they take the medal with a virtue, throw it in the sewer, and keep going to the next victim. I'm not bad. I'm just stating a pattern. You don't believe me? Just read a history, world history, fast in about 3 days. Read it continuously. How? 700 pages. Read it continuously. And when you read that, or the history of the United States of America, you're gonna see the patterns, pum, 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 over and over. And since you're gonna do that in about 1 or 2 days, you will not have time to lose and forget certain things. So you will retain a lot. It's gonna be still fresh. And if you go fast, you're gonna see pop, 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 instead of reading 20 pages today and then in a month another 20 pages. You forgot what the fuck you read those pages. Anyway, that's how I do, and it works just fine. You see the pattern in any little thing that you look for. as a pattern. You're gonna see it. You say, I want to see if this is true. Pum, 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 and you find out. Now, let's go back to this, guys. So Erdogan, because he uses justification of that bomb in Istanbul a few days ago as a pretext to go and fuck the Kurds. And they designated that it was them who did that. They interrogated the woman who was responsible allegedly for that attack. She says, yes, I'm with whomever you want me to be. We want you to be with the Kurds. Okay, I'm with the Kurds. The Kurd says, no, she's not with us. Doesn't matter. She told us that. We're going to go and kill you now. So they started with, Turkey started with airstrikes in Syria and Iraq. And now they are moving with troops and tanks. So they're going to just level these guys. Now you would say, well, United States would help the Kurds. No. United States took its hand off the Kurds, because they didn't say squat about that. The only countries that said something was Iran and Russia. So that means for the American part, the Turks are doing just great, what they're supposed to. So this is what happens with the Kurds. The Kurds are still thinking that they deal with honorable United States, like many Eastern Europeans thought before the Americans came over. Oh, you wait for the Americans to come over. The Americans, the American treats us different. Fuck the Soviets, fuck the Russians, fuck... Now, the Americans came, and you see how it is? Fantastic, fantastic. You're a slave. So, let's go and see what's going on here. So we have here, I'm going to read three titles. I'm not going to read the whole article, just three titles that will reveal exactly what's going on over there. These come from Sputnik. And the first one is this. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, warns Turkish airstrikes on Kurdish militias are, and I'm quoting, just the beginning. Just the beginning. I think Erdogan will go and eradicate each and every Kurd he is going to find. I am 99.9% certain. So that's the first title. What does that mean? He has a green light from the Americans to go and hang them all. Otherwise, the United States will say something. Now, what did the Kurds do? The Kurds did two things. First, there's an article that says Syrian Kurds, seeking diplomatic contacts with Damascus. So now, if they did this, so they contacted the government of Syria, the legitimate government, that they don't really recognize. They have nothing. They want to be separate. They want to have the Americans around. They're a little bit like, a little bit like independent, like the guys in Ukraine. They try to be independent. And they ask Damascus, hey, Assad, what's going on? Can you help us? The crazies are coming. The Americans are keeping their mouth shut because remember, the Kurds are under the Americans' protection, not Damascus. American protection. And that's the first thing. So they contacted these guys that didn't want to have anything to do with them, and they contacted someone else, and that is Syrian Kurds, the same guys, in a letter to Biden. US must aid allies, halt Turkish attacks. So the Kurds, poor Kurds, are going to be fucked, unfortunately. And they contacted even the ones that they didn't want to talk to. The next ones, you know who they're going to ask? The Russians. But by then, there's not going to be any Kurd around to ask for anything. So they asked the government of Syria, hey, what's going on? Yeah, those guys are going to come for us. And then those guys in the government of Syria is at Russia's, how should I put it, order. And then the other one, and they asked the Americans. And the Americans are like, we don't know you. Who are you? We don't know you. And just the mere fact that Turkey does and says that will do what, and they will do, I guarantee you that. And the Americans did not say anything to them, as far as we can read. That tells you green light. Now what could that be? The Americans, do they try to get the Turks fight the Russians over there? Get them in problems? Because for the Turks, this is a very sensitive and angering situation. So for them, it's not like negotiating. It's just that they're held like you have a dog in a leash and the dog tries to jump on you. So you hold it with a leash so it doesn't jump. That's how Turkey is regarding the Kurds. Now, once you unleash that dog, he is gonna jump and bite every Kurd it finds. The problem is the Russians don't want instability there for obvious reasons. And the Americans would like instability. Why? Because that's the only place where the Russians have military bases outside of Russia, in Syria, and they have something in Kazakhstan or something, I think, where they have the tests and whatever they send satellites in space. There's these two places where they have, as far as I know, and they have peacekeepers in South Ossetia and Abkhazia because of those Georgians, Stalin's people, who tried one time to do something shitty and they got a bloody nose. So here we have with the Kurds again, they're gonna be massacred. I 99% certain that this is going to happen. Well, that's why you so the same here. Well, I started with waiting for a time when you can do something. Now is the time when the Turks will go and do. The circumstances changed when they were told don't even dare by the Americans. Right now, there you go. So the circumstance changed. This guy gonna just flatten them. See, they were waiting. They waited. What? 6 years? 4 years? 4 years, I think, right? I think from 2016, 16, something like that. 6 years. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.